Hello, administrators, teachers, and staff, and welcome to MISD Assessment's video overview of state assessment for 2014. Over the next 8 minutes, we'll address several changes that will impact testing in the 2014-2015 school year. Most of you are probably already aware that the biggest change coming up in 2014-15 will be the implementation of Phase 2 standards. Those Phase 2 standards are based on scale scores that were already determined prior to the introduction of STAR in 2012. However, each year, TEA determines the actual raw scores that correlate to the Level 2 and Level 3 scale scores. Those are then published online in the raw score conversion tables when the STAR results for the year are released. The 2014 raw score conversion tables are available at the link on screen. Those offer an approximation of the expected raw score needed to meet the Phase 2 passing standard, although those actual scores will not be official until spring 2015. Now, what you see on this slide is a table comparing the Phase 1 and Phase 2 passing standards for STAR reading and writing in grades 3 through 8, based on what appears in the 2014 raw score conversion tables. You can see an increase of anywhere from 4 to 7 items from Phase 1 to Phase 2, depending on the subject and grade level. Remember, as the disclaimer at the bottom states, those could change once the official raw scores are determined in 2015. And on this slide, you'll see a similar table, this time comparing the Phase 1 and Phase 2 passing standards for math, science, and social studies in grades 3 through 8. This table shows an increase of anywhere from 6 to 8 items from Phase 1 to Phase 2, depending on the subject area and the grade level. It should be noted here that all students in grades 3 through 8 must meet the Phase 2 passing standards this year. For instance, a student who passed grade 6 math in 2014 with 22 items correct and a scale score of 1509 will need to achieve a scale score of 1615, 30 items correct, on grade 7 math in 2015. This slide contains the last comparison table you'll see, showing Phase 1 and Phase 2 standards for the 5 STAR end-of-course exams at the high school level. You can see an increase of 5 to 8 items depending on the subject. Now, the phase-in rules for end-of-course are slightly different and require that each student remains on the same passing standard as mandated on the first EOC exam that the student took. This means that any student who took his or her first EOC exam in 2014 or earlier, including any 8th graders who took Algebra 1 in 2014, will remain on the Phase 1 passing standard throughout his or her academic career. Students who take their first EOC exams in 2015 will always be held to the Phase 2 passing standard, even in later years after the recommended standards are implemented. Next up in our 2014 State Assessment Overview, we'll address the implications of revisions to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills in Mathematics for grades K through 8. The first implication regards test results. Because of the revisions, TEA expects to require extra time to correlate raw scores to scale scores. So for STAR Math 3 through 8, only raw scores will be reported in spring 2015. Scale scores and the determination of levels 1, 2, and 3 will be released in summer 2015. This creates the second implication, which impacts the Student Success Initiative, or SSI, grade advancement process for grades 5 and 8. Because of the delay in full results, there will be no SSI requirements for grade 5 and 8 math only. However, since there are no revisions to the SEs for reading, SSI requirements will still be in place for grade 5 and 8 reading. Next, much like the city of Pompeii or the popularity of disco music, we are witnessing the last days of a former juggernaut, this one known simply as tax. Tax has been reduced to its minimum as of this year. The only tax students who will walk any of MISD's high school hallways this year will be students who have repeated or are repeating a grade. You will not see another tax test booklet delivered to your campus. The test is now exclusively online. Additionally, TEA has removed the April administration of tax from the calendar, leaving only the October and the March administrations during the school year, as well as the July administration in the summer. The next topic in the 2014 State Assessment Overview has been a source of both questions and confusion at the high school level. It relates to a new rule regarding end-of-course testing for students transferring from outside Texas public schools, including transfers from out of state, out of country, from private schools, and homeschoolers who transfer in. The issue in question focuses on the 5 EOC-tested courses: English 1, Algebra 1, Biology, English 2, and U.S. History. Previously, any of these transfers who had already earned credit in an EOC-tested course was not required to complete the corresponding EOC exam, so long as the school accepted the credit on the transcript. That has now changed as a result of the rules cited at the bottom of this slide. The date to keep in mind is in red, September 1st, 2014. That date applies not to the date the student enrolls, but when they have completed the course. If the student completed the EOC-tested course and earned credit prior to September 1st, 2014, then transfers into a Texas public school, that student will not be required to take the corresponding EOC exam. However, if the student completes the EOC-tested course after September 1st, 2014, and earns credit, then transfers into a Texas public school, they would then be required to go back and take the corresponding EOC exam. The new rule is not likely to have an impact in 2014-15, since most transfer credits for this year will have been earned prior to September 1st, 2014. However, it is expected to have a significant impact in the 2015-16 school year and beyond. The last topic to address in our 2014 State Assessment Overview will impact special education students. It involves the creation of a new category of STAR test called STAR A. The test came about because of federal guidelines. The U.S. Department of Education will not allow a state accountability system using exams created from modified standards or curriculum. As a result, STAR Modified had to be retired for accountability purposes. However, TEA needed to create an exam that would appropriately address the needs of students who would have taken STAR Modified. What they developed is called STAR A being for accommodations. TEA has not yet released details, but conceptually, it's expected to build in accommodations for special education students in much the same way STAR L builds in accommodations for English language learners. Like STAR L, STAR A is expected to be an online test, so any campuses who previously tested a large number of students using STAR Modified should plan accordingly for your computer lab spaces on state testing days. The MISD Department of Research, Assessment, and Accountability will pass on more information concerning STAR A as it becomes available to us. Just how will we pass on that information? We're so glad you asked. This slide lists all the ways MISD Assessment provides information to support you. You can access our department website through the district homepage or go straight to misd-assessment.org. We also make lots of information accessible via the MISD network through the Testing 01 Network Drive. You can sign up for text notifications regarding training as well as testing information at remind.com, or gain access to a variety of materials by subscribing to the course MISD Assessment on iTunes U. View any of our videos on YouTube by searching our channel, also called MISD Assessment. We're even on Twitter. Follow @MISD Assessment. So many ways to keep up with what we do. We look forward to working with all of you this school year. Thanks for watching.